Hi, my name is Jury Long. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Communication Studies at Northwestern University. And today I'm going to be presenting on our project, Active Prolonged Engagement Expanded, a toolkit for supporting evidence-based iterative design decisions for collaborative embodied museum exhibits. And I conducted this work while I was both a PhD student and a research scientist at Georgia Tech. And this project has taken place over a long period of time, and the paper is quite long, so I'll do my best to summarize today, but I refer you to the paper throughout for more details. This project has been concerned with the question of how to inform evidence-based decisions about the iterative design of museum exhibits. And I shortened that question a little bit, but I want to highlight a couple of quick things. First, I want to highlight that we're focused on making evidence-based decisions about the iterative design of museum exhibits. This project arose out of a different project where we were developing a museum exhibit to foster family group learning about computer science through collaborative embodied interaction. And what we found was that at each stage of the iterative design, we didn't have a way to sort of feed back into that process with evidence that would support decisions that we were making. And there were a lot of evaluation frameworks that existed. I refer you to the paper for more detail on why those didn't suit our needs. But we ended up needing to build our own that built off of existing frameworks, but went beyond them in certain ways in order to answer the types of questions we were looking to answer. And the second thing I wanted to highlight is that we were focused on designing a framework for understanding visitor interaction with active prolonged engagement exhibits, which is a term that originally comes out of the Exploratorium in San Francisco and is used to refer to exhibits that are open-ended. There are multiple possible trajectories of visitor engagement, and visitors engage with them for a relatively prolonged period of time. So from this question, we ended up developing Apex, which is ultimately a code book for qualitative video analysis as well as qualitative live observation. It reveals things that previous evaluation frameworks did not, such as patterns of intellectual, physical, social, and emotional visitor engagement over time. So it provides insight into when, in what order, and how participants reach a particular stage of engagement. It is reliable and readily transferable to new exhibits, and it provides both micro and macro level insight into visitor interactions. We developed the Apex codebook by recording videos of 31 family group interactions with an exhibit called Blockhead, which I referred to a minute ago. It's a tangible tabletop exhibit that allows learners to make music using computing concepts such as loops, conditionals, and functions, and you can see a video of it to the right here. We recorded video of families interacting with this exhibit at the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago, and we conducted a deductive thematic analysis of visitor interactions with this exhibit. And from this, we developed the Apex coding scheme. But then we applied the Apex coding scheme to several other exhibits, and we sort of tweaked the coding scheme, and we formatted it in such a way that it can be easily transferable to new exhibits that are not this one. We made the codes a little bit more generalizable. And with that, I'll dive into the codes that we developed. We developed codes along 4 different dimensions of engagement. The first is physical engagement. So we looked at both isolated manipulation, which is when visitors are interacting sort of tentatively with some initial components of the exhibit. Investigative manipulation is the next stage where visitors are starting to connect different components of the exhibit in a methodical way. And finally, we looked at integrated manipulation, which is the most complex stage of physical engagement, where visitors are starting to interact with multiple components of the exhibit in a complex way. The next dimension of engagement we looked at was intellectual engagement, which within this space, we identified 3 codes. The first is seeking knowledge, which explains moments when visitors are trying to fill in gaps in their knowledge about the exhibit by asking questions. The second is sharing knowledge, which is moments when visitors have built a mental model of the exhibit and they share this with their peers by providing explanations or observations. And finally, applying knowledge, which refers to moments when visitors take knowledge that they have obtained and they apply it to, for example, proposing a solution to a problem. We also looked at social engagement. The first dimension of social engagement looks at whether an active-passive dynamic has emerged among the group. So is there one person taking over leadership in the interaction, or is everyone engaging as an equal partner? We also look at discord and harmony as a binary scale. So are users engaging in primarily harmonious interaction, or are there moments of discord like frustration or fighting over a component of the exhibit? And finally, we look at independent versus collaborative interaction. The last dimension of engagement we look at is emotional engagement, and this sort of looks at the spectrum of, are visitors expressing positive emotion, negative emotion, or are they engaging in the exhibit in mostly a neutral way? With these codes in hand, we were able to apply them to two different exhibits, and we use these as case studies in the paper. We do both a macro level and a micro level analysis of these exhibits. And I just want to highlight a few points here. Again, more details in the paper. But the macro level analysis allows us to see trends that occur across all participant groups. And so this graph here depicts the percentage of time that all of the participant groups collectively spent in each apex category. So this visualization allows us to see things like the majority of the visitor groups spent most of their time in integrated physical engagement, which is a good thing because that's the most complex level of physical engagement, allowing the most opportunities for learning. We also conducted a micro-level analysis, which allows for a much more fine-grained view of one particular visitor group. And this graph is too complicated to explain in a short presentation, but in short, it shows the apex codes for each 10-second interval of a 10-minute interaction. And looking at this, we were able to see at a much more detailed level what's going on with one particular group. So for example, we're able to see things like this group quickly ramped up to integrated engagement within the first 30 seconds, showing that there was sort of a quick learning curve for this group to get on board with all the components of the exhibit. We're also able to see that they dropped back at one point to isolated physical manipulation, and this can suggest moments when to go back to the video and conduct further analysis. So this is just a quick insight into the types of insights that this coding scheme can reveal about visitor interaction with a museum exhibit. In summary, we have contributed a framework that can be used to qualitatively understand participants' social, emotional, physical, and intellectual engagement with certain museum exhibits. We have contributed case studies demonstrating how to apply the APEX framework to understand participant interactions with two different museum exhibits. And finally, we have contributed a toolkit of supplemental resources to aid researchers in operationalizing APEX in their design process, data collection, and analysis. And I want to highlight that this toolkit is available online. It consists of everything you can think of needing for conducting an APEX analysis, including our code book, our code for data analysis and visualization, and a design worksheet for setting a priori design goals that you can evaluate your iterative designs against. So again, available at this QR code at this link. And with that, thank you so much, and I'm happy to take any questions.